Good morning, everyone. What an auspicious day here in North Philadelphia on our beautiful Temple University campus and our storied Leocourse Sports Center. Again, a great day for Temple University, a great day for Temple athletics, and an especially great day for Temple football. As all of you know, Temple has a rich history in athletics, and athletics is a very core part of this university. Always has been, always will be. As I've said before, in many ways, I see athletics as the gateway to this university, and that is another reason why this is such an important and exciting day. When our great athletics director, Arthur Johnson, and I first spoke about what we were looking for in a new football coach, we agreed that we had three priorities. The first priority is that we wanted someone with the proven ability to develop student athletes for success both in the classroom and on the field. We want a well-balanced program. Second, we wanted a coach with a track record of winning football games. And finally, we actually thought it was very important to find someone with strong ties to our region, as this is key when it comes to recruiting. In Casey Keeler, we have found all that and much, much more, as I've come to learn. And his appointment as the next head coach of the football team directly reflects this university's continuing commitment to this program. Let there be no doubt about that. In this ever-changing and complex world, what excites me most about Coach Keeler's arrival here on North Broad is that while he is a proven winner, and you can see what he has accomplished, which is really sort of historic at this point in his career, he's also a proven program builder. What he did at Sam Houston State University, what he did at the University of Delaware, is clear demonstration of that. And this is a coach who can position Temple University to win conference championships and also go to bowl games. In this ever-changing and confusing and complex world of intercollegiate athletics, I also have tremendous confidence that Coach Keeler is a coach who will ensure that we can adapt flexibly to the moment. At Sam Houston State, he led the Bearcats through a seamless transition from the FCS to the FBS, where his teams continually performed above expectations. Simply put, he is the perfect leader to help us navigate the ever-evolving landscape of college football. I want to thank Arthur Johnson for his tireless efforts in leading the search and helping to bring Coach Keeler to Temple. I also want to thank our board chair, Mitch Morgan, and Brett Perkins, who's the chair of the board's ad hoc committee on athletics, for their support during this process and actually for all that we do for Temple athletics. So in closing, I want to express my genuine excitement in welcoming Coach Keeler and his family here to Temple and to Philadelphia. As a native of Emmaus, it's almost a homecoming for Coach. Coach, congratulations, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to Arthur Johnson.
Thank you, President Fry. First, I want to start by thanking everyone for coming out today for the introduction of our new head football coach here at Temple University. I would like to take this moment to thank a few people. First, our student athletes for their commitment, hard work, and continuing to do the right thing during the transition. I want to thank our interim head coach, Everett Withers, and the rest of the coaching and support staff for continuing to pour into our student athletes as we still had to finish the season. Glenn Sugiyama and his team at DHR Global for their assistance with this important process. And finally, I would like to especially thank President Fry, Chairperson Morgan, and Trustee Brett Perkins for their leadership and trust, their availability throughout the process, and their commitment to finding the right person for this role. At the start of the process, it was critical to move quickly as the landscape in intercollegiate athletics continues to evolve. As you know, the opening of the transfer portal, National Signing Days, those are two significant events that impact current and future student athletes. We also wanted to find a candidate that was devoted to recruiting and developing young men on the field and in the classroom who would be a great partner for our campus community. And as the president mentioned, a winner who had been involved with leading or a part of successful programs with great outcomes on and off the field. We had a strong pool of candidates that I was extremely impressed with, but as we went through this process, it became clear that there was one person that checked all of the boxes. You know from Coach Keeler's resume, it really speaks for itself. He is the 5th fastest coach to 250 wins in college football history. He is the only coach in NCAA history to take 3 different programs to a national championship game. He has the most national championship game appearances of any current college coach and the 2nd most all time. Recently, he has shown his ability to maneuver in this ever-changing modern-day college football, going 9-3 in his 2nd season of FBS football competition. But when I met him in person, it really struck me not only the way he emphasizes developing student athletes and coaches, but also how he loves football, he loves building teams, and he understands everything about being a part of a university community. Those messages aligned with my beliefs and were consistent with what I heard from many of the people that I reached out to learn more about him. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the new head football coach here at Temple University, Coach Casey Keeler.
Thank you. Go Owls. Absolutely. Thank you, Arthur. Thank you, President Fry. Thank you for the team at Temple that has put this whole thing together, and they're putting their trust in me. I apologize or give my condolences for my wife, Janice. She is back selling a house in Texas. We have a house in Rehoboth, and we always spend Christmas there, and so she already had a flight set to come in and to get the house all ready, and all of a sudden this happened, and she said, probably going to stay back for a couple days and get some things taken care of. But she's the love of my life. We've been married coming up on 40 years in July, and she understands. Thank you. Being married to a college football coach, I think that's like 280 or something, like dog years with a football coach. But I grew up an hour from here, Emmaus, Pennsylvania. My mom's still up there. She's 92 years old. Was recruited by the legendary Wayne Harden, and got here a little late. It was late in the process, and they didn't have a scholarship, and so I ended up at the University of Delaware. And in my time at Delaware, we had some pretty good teams. And in fact, we lost 7 games in those 3 years I was a varsity football player, 2 to Temple. Remember them well. 1978, we were undefeated, about end of September. And back then, believe it or not, freshmen couldn't play varsity at Delaware, and so this was my first real chance to play college football, and feeling pretty good. We're 3-0. We go into the Veterans Stadium, and I still have nightmares from some tackle down blocking me and me not seeing them, because it was such a physical game that you realize when you got in the locker room afterwards, it was just a different brand of football. That team at Temple went 7-3-1 that year, and I think they were like 16 points away from going undefeated. The next year, my Delaware team I played on had even a better team, and we were 13-1 and won the national championship, and our loss was to Temple. And again, it was the same thing. It was just a different brand of football. It was a physical football, and it was humbled. It was humbling playing against them. I did get a little revenge my senior year. picked off a fake punt up the sideline for an 80-yard touchdown at Veterans Stadium, one of the first games on ESPN. I was running as fast as I could because I always bragged about I was the fastest linebacker ever in the history of Delaware football. I probably was bragging a little bit. But they were catching me, and I got in the end zone. And back in those days, you didn't tap out. You went and ran down on kickoff the next play. I mean, life has changed so much. But I did get revenge my senior year against the Temple Owls. But you can see the lens I look at Temple football through. It was a great football program at one time, and it has had periods of greatness. And that's the goal, to get back there. People say it's not possible. People say it's unrealistic. And I told the team today, if you're realistic, you're playing for the wrong guy. When I walked into Delaware, they had just gone 4-6. And the president said to me, listen, changing the offense, you're changing the defense. They haven't recruited well the last couple of years. Don't talk about winning championships. And within the first 5 minutes of my press conference, I talked about winning national championships. And I said, we will win them sooner rather than later. And I look at President Rosales, who's sitting right there, and his hands are in his head. And afterwards, he said, why did you disobey me within 5 minutes of me hiring you? I said, because there were 80 players in the back of that room. And they had to know I wasn't here to rebuild. This wasn't going to take time. We had to go get this thing right away. And again, it's perception's reality. And they have to understand that we are going to go get this right away. That's what I told our team today. I said, don't think we're going to rebuild here. We're going to get this done now. There's no reason we can't be fighting for conference championships. And oh, by the way, the conference champion in this league, they have a pretty good chance to go play in the playoffs. So again, that's the expectation. And if they're realistic, they should not be playing for me. So how did we get here? So I got a phone call from Glenn. And he said, I represent Temple in the search for a new football coach. And, I've done this for 31 years as a head coach. I've gotten a lot of those calls. And I appreciate it, and I listened. It was, it was back home. It was Temple. And the difference here was within 3 days, I was in a face-to-face meeting with the athletic director. And Arthur and I sat for an hour, but it took 3. It was one of those hour conversations, and you look at your watch and you realize you've been together for 3 hours. And during that conversation, he FaceTimed with President Fry, and he's rooting on his Eagles. And I'm like, that's a good sign. If I have a president who's feverishly rooting on his Eagles, then I'm in good hands. And the 3 hours, I don't think we even realized it was 3 hours until I started driving home and I called my wife. And it's just we connected. And the vision of what Temple football can do. This is a great university. It can be even greater. And the belief that I have is that these two men feel that Temple football can help raise that greatness. And so that's why I came. I had a lifetime contract at Sam Houston. How long do you want to stay? I promised that university I would successfully move them through the challenges of going from FCS to FBS. We had just won a national championship, had just had the greatest calendar year in the history of college football, winning 21 games in 10 months. And I knew it was going to be a real challenge because we had a 9-game schedule the next year. We really didn't have anything we could play for 2 years. And in this day and age, keeping together a team is going to be really hard. And so I said, listen, I will do that. We will navigate through that. But when that's done, I'm going to look at possibilities of other opportunities. And this was the perfect opportunity. How do we get back on track? I'm a culture builder. And that's what I told the team. Right now we have a brand. We're Temple Tough. I love that. I think it used to be the 10th and Diamond guys. I love that. The 10th and Diamond guys, absolutely. We're bringing that back. They have a brand. Now they have to have a culture. And I said, listen, just talking about a brand isn't a culture. You got to live the brand every day. It's are you doing all the right things every day? My football team at Sam Houston this past year was down 22-0 versus its rival. And it was a rival that I had never played against because Texas State had moved to FBS before I got there, and so they weren't playing anymore. But now with us going FBS, they put that game together. And I can't tell you how many alums were in my ear about this is the game. And we're down 22-0. And that team fought back, and we drove 6 minutes and 43 seconds on the last drive of the game to take the clock all the way down to 6 seconds, kick the field goal, and won. That's a culture win. That's what great cultures do. A couple years earlier, we were playing James Madison in the semifinals for the national championship. We're down 21 to 3. I'm sorry, it was 24 to 3. I went over to the sideline reporter for ESPN, and she was shocked how confident I was. I said, yeah, we just need to get one score. Don't need to get 21 right now. We need one score. And that's what I told the boys in the locker room. I said, man, we need one score. And we got that one score, and all of a sudden we scored 28 points in 5.5 minutes, and we won the ball game. That's what cultures do. And that's what I was trying to explain to our guys. They're talking about, you know, there's things going on right now in college football with the transfer portal opening up. Last year we had one starter from Sam Houston go in the portal. That's probably a record. And that's what I tried to explain to them. I said, it's going to be proof of concept. You're going to have to trust a little bit. You have to trust that just if you look at my history and the way I coach, that this is going to be the right place for you. And so that's going to be a challenge. There's a lot of challenges right now with what's going on in college football. But I'm excited because, again, there's a brand here. I saw how they played at the end of the season. They kept on hanging in there. I think there's good players in that locker room, and now it's my opportunity and my job to take us to a championship sooner rather than later. Thanks so much. Go Owls.
We're going to open it up to questions from the media at this time. There's a microphone over there. Please wait for it. And then if you could announce your name and your organization before your question, that would be great. So, questions? No questions. Come on, guys. Sean?
Hi, Sean Pastor, Owls Daily. Casey, I wonder if you, and this is almost like a hypothetical, but the fact that Sam Houston made the jump from FCS to FBS, do you feel like in this sort of late window that opened doors that had not been as open over the course of many years?
Yeah, I don't know. I think when we won the national championship in the spring, you know, those opportunities were all gone already. And I think possibly, you know, that was an opportunity if I was going to move on then. And when that didn't happen for me, I decided, you know, if they want me to move this program through the transition, I owe it to them. You know, they treated me very well for the last decade. And so, again, I think that there's some unique challenges right now in college football. I think having someone that understands those challenges and to manage those challenges is what we're seeing. Look at the success Kirk Cincinnati has had. Willie Fritz down in Houston. People are recognizing that coaches with experience, that's what they need right now to navigate through the landscape, which is college football.
Jeff Nyberg from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Arthur, why was a coach with head coaching experience the path this time around?
Well, I think it was important because of the changes that have been happening. And I think in this day and age, I still was open-minded about, you know, someone who had not been a head coach. However, that experience was important to me and important for this university.
Any other questions?
Daniel Steenkamer with HeroSports.com. Coach, as you return to this Mid-Atlantic region and make your way back home, how much do you look forward to recruiting in this area at this G5 FBS level? But then also you're entering a conference here at Temple that is playing against schools that are, or at least North Texas is in Texas, and you have those Texas connections as well. How do you foresee and look forward to all those journeys on the road?
Yeah, so my recruiting background is unique in that as a Division III coach, you recruited New Jersey. Because of in-state tuition, that made the most sense. And so I've developed relationships through my whole, 10 years there in New Jersey. And then when I went to the University of Delaware, again, it was a lot of Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, New York, and then it ended up being from pretty much New Hampshire down to Florida. Started taking some Georgia kids, some Florida kids. And then when I got to Texas, I realized, and that's what the job of a head coach is to kind of figure out how to solve this Rubik's Cube. And at Texas, in Sam Houston, we recruited Texas, and Texas. We didn't go outside of Texas. And I understood why, because within 3.5 hour radius of where I was, the high school football was so outstanding. Plus, you got the discount because they didn't want to go away and play at a MAC school or one of those schools outside the area. So I think coming back to the region and here at Temple, my job is to figure out what's the best way to attack this recruiting. I believe if you look at the history of Temple football and all the NFL players that they've had, a good portion of those are Jersey guys that they got out of high school. High school recruiting will always be our foundation. That's the fabric of the team. And I believe that if you just are always taking transfers to fill every gap and hole, it's tough to really develop a culture. So we'll start with high school recruiting, but we'll obviously be very involved in junior college and transfers also.
Rock Hoffman, Football Stories Magazine. Coach, you're a Delaware guy. Delaware's moving up to FBS. Would you like to see that rivalry restored between Temple and Delaware?
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. If I can get 10% of the cut of that gate, I feel pretty good about that one. So.
Casey, John DiCarlo, Owlscoop.com. You talked about the high school recruiting at this stage. Can you talk about, I know you have coaches that have worked for you that are still in this area. How many of those guys can you turn to now and say, hey, I'm here. I know it's December now. I've got a lot of ground to make up in a short amount of time. How much does that help you?
Really important right now that we don't take the wrong players. Because what happens is people rush in. And I'll warn you right now, our transfer portal group probably is not going to be as big now as it probably is going to be in the spring. Because it's not the ones that you miss in the recruiting process. It's the ones that you take that don't fit in. They're the ones that really hurt your program. And we vet our kids really hard. I mean, we want to make sure that that locker room is strong. And so many times coaches will rush in and try to just accumulate talent. Yeah, talent's great. I love talent. But I want culture also. So, again, we'll come in and we'll hit the transfer portal hard, and we still have the high school guys where I'm talking to all of them and trying to get them to make sure they sign. But we will be a little slower in terms of making sure we vet everybody and get the right guys.
Coach, I wonder what, after 35 years in coaching, what 0-8 was like last season.
Yeah, and 1-8 was maybe one of the most rewarding moments of my life. So we couldn't get a schedule, and so we had to play BYU and Air Force and Houston back to back to back as you're transitioning up, which is probably not a great idea. And we played, BYU to, there was a 7-point game in the fourth quarter. Air Force was a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. And eventually Houston just beat us up. And, I told the guys, I'm like, listen, I said, we just got to keep on fighting. And our culture will get us through this. And I remember coming home one day, and we had lost on a walk-off field goal, and it was a Sunday. And my wife said to me, you seem like you're okay. I said, I'm actually okay. She says, you just lost on a walk-off field goal. I said, I know we lost on a walk-off field goal. She said, but why are you okay? I said, because I was in that weight room. Those kids are killing it right now. They're going to get this fixed. And I can promise you on Tuesday, they're going to have one of the best practices they've had all year, because that's who they are. And it was such a challenge for us. We kept on talking about, like, a lot of programs would fall apart. We're not going to fall apart. We're going to stay together. And we won 3 of the last 4. We dropped a touchdown in the end zone against Western Kentucky with about a minute left to go in the game to go 4 in a row. And I was so proud because our culture kept us together. And so it was a great challenge. But at the same time, I saw that they were still giving me everything they could give me. And so my energy was very positive. If they stopped giving me effort, it would have been a different set of circumstances. But I loved going to work every day. I was disappointed for them. I mean, a little disappointed for me too, but I was disappointed for them. And to see them just battle, it made me realize all the things that my staff had done in terms of culture. It was working. We have a strong belief that, the foundation is love and trust. And, there's a lot of love yous and hugs and things in our building. That's who we are. But you can't really love somebody or trust somebody unless you know somebody. And so that's one of the things that you'll see us do is we'll spend a lot of time making sure that we know each other. And I do a lot of cross-pollination. I do a lot of defensive coaches doing stuff with the offensive guys and offensive coaches doing stuff with the defensive guys. Because when you're in the hotel or you're on the plane or more importantly, you're on the sideline, you need to be able to know everybody and trust each other. And so, again, I do some unique things, and I think those things have move this in a direction where our culture has been the foundation.
One last question.
Coach Josh Sanders, CBS News. When I've talked to a number of alumni, there's optimism in this room, and you bringing that winning pedigree. When I've talked to people in the college football world, the one word they use to describe you is steady. You are steady. I wonder, when you talk about the brand that Temple football has and the culture that you want to build, what are some of the challenges that you foresee, at least in your first season?
Yeah. Well, just in general, rosters change so much now. Before you'd follow that freshman to his sophomore year, to his junior year, to his senior year, and they would graduate to Al. It's just changed so much. So the important thing for me is making sure that the new players coming in understand the culture we have, that the old players and the veteran players have now established through winter workouts and those kind of things. And navigating that is probably the greatest challenge right now, because there's so much fluidity in college athletics and rosters. So, again, I think being a steady hand is really important in this day and age, because all the things that transpire, we're playing a game, 4 games left to go in the season against Louisiana Tech last year, and their wide receiver has already offered $200,000 to leave to go somewhere else. Boy, that kind of stuff kills your locker room. It's not good for college football either. That really gets me upset when I hear those kind of stories. But that's why you have to have a lot of honesty with your players, and you got to talk to them about those kind of situations. And so again, is it a challenge? Absolutely. Are we up for the challenge? Absolutely. And I wouldn't have come here unless I thought that we could go win championships.
Well, on behalf of Temple Athletics and Temple University, we appreciate all of you coming out, and that'll conclude our public portion of the press conference. Thank you, and go Owls.
Go out.